She was your biggest defender, but also your biggest campaign worker.
Oh, she was serious. Yeah, she was serious. And then, you know, speaking of her, and I write this in the book, even after she got sick and she had cancer herself, we were at the hospital, and as it turns out, these were some of her final days, which I didn't realize at that time, didn't want to realize. But she was, I was sitting next to her, and she was on the hospital bed, and she was turned that way. And it was the AG's race, and I just decided to run and filed. And she said, well, how's the race going? And I said, well, Mommy, they said they're gonna kick my ass. And my mother took all of her energy. She turned her body over, looked at me, and smiled.
I'm glad I was saving that one.
Yeah.
Because I'm so glad, because I wanted to hear you say that. But you also write in the book, she rolled over, looked at me, and just unveiled the biggest smile. She knew who she had raised. Yeah. She knew her fighting spirit was alive and well inside me.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the California Attorney General's race, where you said you twice elected. And even in that race, you write, one longtime political strategist announced to an audience at UC Irvine that there was no way I could win because I was, quote, a woman running for Attorney General, a woman who is a minority, a woman who is a minority who is anti-death penalty, who is DA of wacky San Francisco. Old stereotypes die hard. I was convinced that my perspective and experience made me the strongest candidate in the race, but I didn't know if the voters would agree. But they did. It took a few weeks to find out.
It took 21 days. So, okay, here's what happened. What happened was... So, election night, as I write about all of my election nights in the book, election night, we have a tradition of family and friends small dinner, and after the polls close, and then go to where all of the friends and the supporters are for the election night, hopefully party. And so I went to the place where we were, which is Delancey Street, which is a place that I've gone to almost every election night. It's a wonderful residential treatment facility for former offenders and getting them training jobs. So I urge you to look it up if you're at all interested in successful recidivism prevention programs. In any event, got there, and my consultant said, it's gonna be a long night. And you know, but you probably should just get out there because the TVs are out there, they're on the risers. It was about 10 o'clock. He said, you should probably get out there and say something, but it's gonna be a long night. And I said, all right. So I was in a little ante room, and everybody was in the big room. And so I walk out into the big room, and all of the supporters, lots and lots of people are there, and I'm walking through the crowd to get to the stage, and people are all teared up. And I was like, oh, this was an incredible election, you know, against odds. Everybody was fighting. We're in it. Everybody's feeling really emotional. I was very touched. And I walked up to the stage, and I didn't have any notes, and I said, you know, it's gonna be a long night, but this is what we stood for, and about smart on crime. And I could feel the mood in the room kind of shifting. And then I was done speaking, and somebody who had been with me for a long time, she came up to the stage, and I was standing on the stage, and she came up and she said, get back in the room. And you know, when you've been through battle with folks and then somebody says to you, do something, you don't ask why. So I said, okay. So I took the steps down, and then there was this one reporter. I'll never forget her. I see her sometimes in San Francisco. And she had the cameraman there, and she had this mic in my face as I was walking into the back room. She's like, well, what happened? What do you think happened? I said, we ran a great race. This is what we're about. This is what we stand for. And she and I are not connecting. And I get into the back room, and then I realized that the San Francisco Chronicle had declared my defeat. So I was the only one in the room who thought we were still in the game. They had been crying because they thought we lost. And then we had 20.
But you didn't.
But it all worked out, and so 21 days later, the count was done and we were victorious.
Yeah, you got to